Hi, everyone, and welcome to Your Life Projectized. I'm super excited about today because not only am I returning after a brief 2 month hiatus of not publishing an episode, and so sincere apologies for that, but unfortunately, there were some life things that got in the way that unfortunately, ran up against my schedule for posting podcast episodes. So hopefully today we get to return to, again, we get to return to the podcast with an amazing, amazing set of guests. So today's podcast, so this is episode number 38. Okay, so today is episode number 38. And today's episode is called Moving Forward Requires One Hard Truth that not everyone gets access. And on the line today, I have a very special guest. I have Mr. James Reckon, and James is the former president of the PMI Inland Empire chapter in California. And I'm so pleased to have him. I've actually spoken for James's chapter in the past, which was such an amazing experience. I'm speaking for them again next month, actually. Actually, wait, what month is it?
In
It's
June.
in
In
June,
June.
yes, in June. So
Almost
I,
next month. We're
yeah,
almost to May.
almost next
Yeah.
month. I'm
Yeah.
ahead of myself.
No worries. No
So
worries.
yeah, so actually, I'm gonna go ahead and give the mic to James so he can introduce himself. So James, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, just a little bit about you.
I appreciate that, Parmjit. And thank you for not only having me appear on this podcast, of which I got to tell you, if you guys go back through the other, was it 37 episodes? There's some amazing work that Parmjit does with her guests, and it's really, really a great podcast. And for me to be a part of this, and the first one back after a short hiatus, I'm actually quite honored to do it.
Thank you.
As you're very welcome. And as you had mentioned earlier, I am the immediate past president of the California Inland Empire chapter for PMI, and um, I am a project manager in healthcare, a program manager as well. And I've spent quite a bit of time now in project and program management. But prior to that, I was in entertainment. I'd worked for Disney. I'm still with Angels Baseball. For those of you who follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see a couple of posts that I put about Angels Baseball. And that's been a great, fun thing that I've been doing now for almost, was it 30 years? I just had my 30th opening day. And one of the things about me is this idea of leadership is a very, very important support area.
Hmm.
When I lead, and particularly when I was president of the chapter, and also when I'm running projects, my job is not to do anything. My job is to be there and do whatever is needed. I'm not directing, I'm being directed from the board, from my project teams, all that. And that's kind of a little bit about how I am, is that I like to get input and directions from the people that are closest to the work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I feel that I operate from. And for those of you who do follow me on social media, over the course of the last year, I started with these videos that are called hashtag moving forward with James Reckon.
Hmm.
And if you look here, there's the logo for it. And
Yep.
hope, which means help one person every day.
Love
And
it.
that is something that I do believe in. And my podcasts, for those in, Parjit, you've seen them, and a couple of other folks, I'm sure a couple of other folks have seen them. It really just kind of breaks down some common sense stuff and puts a little bit of science behind it. And it gives me a
Yeah.
chance to tell some stories. And you're going to find today that I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
And I relate uh, through other people's views with empathy. And so the stories that I share, particularly about careers and things like that, people go, wait a minute, if James could do this, I could do it too.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and so that also helps in my mentoring. That also helps in so many other facets of my life.
Yeah.
And so I am working in healthcare. I wasn't always working in healthcare, but it was through my PMI chapter that gave me the opportunity do to have a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Uh, and and you find out that sometimes you make more than one leap of faith. In my case, I think it was two, three, four. I've lost count, but it's I cannot speak enough about the importance of the people that you manage in your inner circle and the people who are mentoring you, because when you are being mentored, you are being given so much information about where there's potential pitfalls and risks and things like that. But please understand that if you are a mentee, you have to drive it, and that's my other belief as well. So when I'm mentoring, I need the mentee to drive it, and so that's a little bit about me. And there's other things as well, but that's I think that's enough to get us started. And I think as we're talking and I'm sharing stuff, you'll get to know a little bit more about me.
Yeah, absolutely, James. And thank you so much for sharing that. And that is who I know you to be, a servant leader, just in our conversations. And obviously, you and I have gotten to know each other quite well throughout the year. Not only obviously did you speak at my chapter, or so I'm the past president, of course, the PMI Southern Nevada chapter. But not only did you speak at my chapter, and I got to know you
Yeah.
there,
By the way,
but
this is my coffee cup
oh.
from that event, right?
Love it. I
Southern
love that.
Nevada. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
PMI
I'm
Southern
telling
Nevada
this
and
is
Las
one of
Vegas.
yeah, this is about the right size for my coffee. Just,
Yeah, same,
yeah.
same. I actually, yeah, yep. And I got this one from, gosh, I think this I got from our last summit that we attended. But yeah,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and then I saw you in Arizona at the PMI Global Summit. So,
Yeah.
and getting to know you, I've definitely learned that about you, that you are absolutely a servant leader, and I love your HOPE acronym. Help one person each day.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I think that is something we all should be doing. I think this world can use a lot more kindness. And so I think that is such a great thought and such a great perspective to have. So, with that, I would love to jump into talking a little bit about your framework, framework about moving forward. But one of the first questions that I had for you, James, and I thought a lot about this when we last spoke. So I kind of want to start with the basics. So you talk a lot about trust, you talk a lot about access. And so I'd like to understand, and I think our audience would like to understand, why is it so important that leaders understand the difference between trust and access?
Well, Parmjit, that is really a great question. And actually, what also ties into this is the idea of hope and help one person every day. And you and
Okay.
I have a colleague in common, which is, I think, how we ended up knowing each other, is John Signo of
Yep.
Signify. And
Yep.
John is the one who taught me hope. And I will tell you that John is an incredibly giving person. And uh, I was so happy that he taught that to me because it did solidify in my mind that we are here to make a difference, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so this moving forward with trust and access matrix came about uh, as a way to help people sort of visually see how relationships can work. And so what I want to do is, if I can, I'm going to share a screen.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see, I would like to share, this is this one here. And so tell me if you and your viewers can see this four square box.
I see it.
Fantastic. Okay. Let me just take a couple of moments here. So this is the core of what I call the moving forward with trust and access matrix.
Okay.
And uh, what where this came about was there were some people that were in my inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is that from that inner circle, we found that there was a difference in levels of trust and access. So think about this here. If you have somebody who's in your inner circle,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to uh, you're going to find that you trust them and they have full access to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have full access to them.
Yeah.
So that's the upper left-hand box, which is the inner circle of the core. Those are people that you have high trust and high access. So this could be a spouse or a dear trusted friend that you've known for, you're confident, your friends, so the people that are there for you and you are there for them,
Yeah.
no matter what. Okay. So now let's take a look at the blue box. Okay. Now in the blue box, the inner circle development. Okay. That is where there are people like people from high school, right? and you hung out with them in high school, nice people, and they're good souls. And you don't have a problem trusting them, but they don't have a lot of access to them. They don't have a lot of access to you. They're not somebody that you're going to let them call you at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, "Hey, can you bail me out of jail?" You don't
Yeah.
have that kind of access. You trust, right? Like, so if you go to an event and they're there, you're going to be able to exchange, pleasantries and how are things going, and my gosh, and your business is taking off, and Parmjit, I'm seeing that you're doing great with your podcast.
Hmm.
But that's where those are people that could move into your inner core if there was room and the right circumstances.
Now,
Yeah.
James, would you say that your inner circle core, the left quadrant, that is more like a close friend, like as you just mentioned, whereas the right quadrant, the blue one, that is more like maybe an acquaintance?
Yes, but that also could be in the lower trust but high access as well.
Okay.
It could be an acquaintance could show up in either the blue box or the orange box for different reasons. So think about this. You met somebody that
Hmm.
you think that there could be a relationship, and that's where the orange box, I think, comes in. The blue box are people that you know that haven't given you any reason to throw them out of your life, if you will.
Okay.
Now, the orange box, think about this here for a moment. You're in a new relationship. And I gotta tell you what, you guys are, say you're together almost every other day, you're going to dinner, you're going to Disneyland, whatever it is, and you're going out and you're dating. So the access level is high, but the trust isn't there yet because you don't know each other that well, and so what happens is, and this is the box where I think most people get into trouble, and that is when they allow too much access for the amount of trust that would be required to have that access. So if the relationship works out, then that person moves up towards the upper left-hand quadrant. If it doesn't, then, and if it's a very bitter and bad breakup, they move to the right-hand box. Okay, so you see the
Okay.
difference there. So
Yeah.
acquaintances, it depends on where they are. It depends on what the definition of what their relationship really could be. So that's an idea of transactional. And by the way, if we, Parjit, what I want to do is I'm actually going to show this also as the way Lee Lambert asked me to do in terms of project work and stakeholders. So this
Okay.
is I want to just make the statement here that this is really more on personal, which came to me when one night at 2 o'clock in the morning of all things, and I just found that this just showed up. And so what happens is sometimes you have somebody that can be anywhere in this box, any of these boxes. And for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. It becomes bitter. It becomes what I like to say is weaponizing emotions and weaponizing relationships, let's say. But also, it could be that you just drifted apart. You
Hmm.
don't have, you just don't have that connection anymore. You moved on or something. But, I use a Vict because it is a little harsh, but it's kind of meant to be that way. It's kind of that thing to kind of wake you up and go, is this person who's over in the red box worth me taking time and cycles away from somebody that's in the green box? Right? And most that's going to be no. But some of the times what happens is that we dwell in the red box. Why did this
Hmm.
happen? What went wrong? Whatever. And we dwell on that. And what it does is it pulls the resources away from the other boxes where we should be paying more attention.
Yeah.
So you need to set it up to where there's no trust because they've proven that there's no trust, but also no
Hmm.
access or minimal access. It could be minimal trust, minimal access. But those are, and so that's kind of the way the model is set up is for the people that are in our core.
Hmm.
Why would we take away attention and help for them and they're helping us if we're busy dealing with people in the bottom right hand box? And the same thing in the other boxes. There's levels of involvement that you can have, but you don't want to become sucked into something to where you're not taking care of your inner core and your top people in your inner core. Those are the ones that deserve so much of your attention in your personal life. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And thank you so much, James, for showing that. I think it's incredibly important. And so as you were going through that, I started thinking about, right, I think you talked about Lee and Bust and stakeholders. So that's where I guess this next question is going. So I'd like to understand, right? So how can project managers or leaders use this framework, especially for stakeholder management, right? Um, because I think it would be really important for PMs to use this, especially when things start to feel off or things in their relationships that they have, maybe within their stakeholder group, they don't feel quite right. So how can project managers then look at this matrix that you've developed and say, okay, based on based on maybe the conversations I'm having with this stakeholder, or maybe based on the relationship and where it is today, how can a project manager look at that matrix and say, okay, this is where I'm at, and maybe these are the next steps that I should take?
I tell you, Parmjit, you are so spot on with that question. And not only that, I can tell through your experience as a project and program manager that this is something that you've probably experienced, but you didn't realize how
Yeah,
everything falls in. And that's the
yeah,
power of the power of the matrix is that there's tons of science out there and studies that talks about trust and the way trust works. Um, but there's nothing that's really out there that says you have trust and based on the trust, how much access.
yeah,
We tend to go, oh, something I don't trust that person, so I'm not going to hang out with them or whatever. It's there, but there wasn't any kind of framework that says this is actually how it works.
yeah,
So as you saw in the personal boxes, that all of a sudden doesn't that make sense? It's
yeah,
it's it's something we've always known, but it hasn't really been presented this way. And that's one of the reasons why I trademarked it and I copyrighted it, is because there this opportunity to do this, but also realize that it didn't exist.
yeah.
So now when I gave the original Matrix, I shared it with John Signo and I also shared it with Lee Lambert. And Lee said, "Oh, that's really great. How does it support project stakeholders?"
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like, something, if Lee Lambert is showing interest in this, and if Lee Lambert is also saying, you might want to develop it for this, you listen, right?
absolutely.
Absolutely. The founder of the PMP, if he speaks, you listen,
A
right?
100%.
So and people will ask me, they'll go, well, what is it about Lee that is, and I said, well, I had a chance to present with Lee. And think of it this way. Presenting with Lee is kind of like being asked to go up on stage and sing with Taylor Swift,
Agreed.
right? I mean, is that in our world, there it is definitely the top of everything that we do in project management. You
Absolutely,
know,
absolutely.
so what I did, I put together for Lee is, again, it's based on trust and access.
Yeah.
So we have the access, in the bottom of it, where we have the uh, high access versus low access, and then
Hmm.
same thing with what I call demonstrated behavior or trust. So our core stakeholders. So here's another example. Parmjit, I know that you're an amazing project and program manager, right? I know this. So if we were working together on a project,
Hmm.
okay, there is no doubt that I would have full trust that you're going to be able to get the job done. And I'm going to give you or share with you any tools that I have to help you be successful. So from a project point of view, right,
Hmm.
you're in that green box.
Yeah.
And those are your champions. Those are those are the folks that help move the project in a positive way. So there's high engagement, right? So
Yep.
that would definitely be you as a project and program manager. Now let's template that against the personal one. Okay, you and I know each other. We've
Mm.
we've worked together a little bit. Uh, but here's the thing. You're not going to call me at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, "Hey, I just had this great thought. What do you think of, mixing vanilla ice cream with raspberries?"
Yeah.
Now, you may have that conversation with your friends,
Yeah.
right? And those people, but that's so you see the difference in the level of access. In the project
Yes.
world, you have unlimited access. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
personal, for obviously because of things like boundaries and things like that,
Sure, sure.
right. So those are the folks that are in your green box for from a project point of view. And then what happens is that as you move over to the next box over, the blue box, those are people, those are your stakeholders, but they don't you don't interact with them on a daily basis. They're they're important to your projects, but you don't have the same level of access to them as you have in the green box, and nor do they have the same level of access to you. And again, it's a combination of boundaries, but that's also roles. That's also roles and responsibilities and stakeholder management, which we know that in the back, like the back of our head.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Parmjit, if you take a look, these are what I call collaborative and structured engagement, but these are the folks that actually now have uh, the high level of trust, but a lower level of access. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the orange box, this is a little different than what I was saying in terms of the personal, but it still applies. And that is, you know, um, vendors. Those are relationships that are maintained when the period of performance is going on or the SOW is being written or something like that. But then once that project is done, uh, you're unless that vendor is going to be engaged for something else, you may follow them on LinkedIn, you may keep in a little bit of contact with them, but for the most part, you're not going to you're not going to give them the trust and access that you would for the green box and the blue box. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's vendors and maybe change control. Those are things that, and again, this can be different groups as well, but this is an example. But that's where the engagement is limited. Now, the red box, and we've all had that,
Yeah.
where there are people that are involved in our projects who, for whatever reason, are on Kubler's change curve in a very negative way. This isn't their project, or it's not the project that they're really passionate about. They're
Yeah.
passionate about other projects. And so they're just going through the motions on this. In reality, they're not contributing.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are folks that you're not really going to spend very much time with them, except when it's absolutely necessary. And if possible, what you might do is just have them, particularly if you have governance boards, and you might run them through that as far as, hey, if you're interested in doing a change, let's go ahead and submit it to change control and let change control deal with whether or not what it is they're asking for is gonna you're not involved in it necessarily as a project manager. You have awareness of it, but you're not managing the relationship.
Right.
And so for us, somebody else is managing the relationship. So, but chronic blockers, we have that. People who go through and just say, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And at some point in time, you just kind of go, all right, well, thanks for telling me. And I'm going to rely less on you unless there's
Mm-hmm.
that specific SME thing that only you can do. But then again, it's going to be handled in a very, very structured way so that the rest of the project, particularly those folks in the green boxes, are not getting pulled away because we're spending too much time with the folks in the red boxes. So that's the way that it works on a professional or stakeholder level, those things. So you kind of see how the two go together. And so the moving forward with trust and access matrix came about really in trying to make sense of how relationships can be amazing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe a little less than amazing, maybe not so amazing, and then absolutely not amazing. And and because it's named moving forward with trust and access matrix is because of who I am, as I'm the moving forward guy, as people in your chapter noticed when I was there presenting. And so it all kind of falls together and ties into this hashtag moving forward with James Reckon. And and it's really been an incredible uh, amount of time to be able to focus on this, to not only be able to do the videos that I do,
Yeah.
but then when the moving forward with trust and access matrix just came to me, and I started working on it, and then you get Lee's input on it. That tells me that this is going in the right direction. And so again, helping one person every day, if this model, this matrix helps one person who's watching this podcast, then it was worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you built something great, James. I think I've shared this with you before. I think that this is it's an amazing matrix that you have developed. Again, I think that it is going to serve a lot of people. And so one thing I also love that you talk about, James, is boundaries. Right, even in my career, I'm learning about boundaries. In my personal life, I'm learning about boundaries, and boundaries they're so important. And so, the question that I had for you, so how do leaders adjust to access, right, without damaging their relationships or damaging the morale of their project team? Because I think it's very easy for that to happen. I mean, I've been in situations where I had to get rid of either a vendor or a project team member who I'm now, maybe I don't give them as much access to me, or I don't trust them maybe as much because of something that has
Mhm.
happened. But of course, right, you don't want to disrupt the morale of the team. You don't want to necessarily burn bridges, but how do you navigate that? How do you minimize access or reevaluate access while ensuring that morale remains at a high, and that yeah, I mean, and that you're not necessarily burning bridges.
Right.
I think that's a difficult one.
It is. One of the things that I found in my career is it's happened a couple of times where I have a couple of members on the project team that just for whatever reason they're not getting along.
Yeah.
And so my role in project and program management is to make sure that the team is all going in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so from a project point of view, what I'll tend to do is I'll sit down with the two of them and go, all right, I'm noticing this. This isn't beneficial to the team. What's going on? And so it's, well, this is going on. This, all right. So let's make sure that we have the roles clearly defined and let's make sure there's no overlap or make sure whatever it is that's causing the discomfort.
Yeah.
Now, after making those adjustments, then what it is that I do if there still continues to be a problem is that I dial up the resource managers
Okay.
for the two individuals. And I talked to the resource manager. I said, look, this is going on. They don't report to me technically. I mean,
Yeah.
there's this idea that everybody reports to the project manager.
No.
Not in reality. I mean, in a truly projectized environment, yes, but for the most part, for most organizations, uh, we're borrowing the resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and and when I bring the resource managers in, and I've seen this work a couple of times. First of all, that tends to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And again, we keep it very constructive. And but the other is that it creates this shared expectation that wasn't there before between the two of them roles and responsibilities. And
Yeah.
so if I drop the ball as a PM, then it's my job to first of all try and fix it and try and help the two individuals fix it. And if that doesn't work, then the resource managers. And then if the resource managers, if I still have one person, whatever, and at least the resource managers know that this is going on, I can go back, ask them. I haven't had to do this, but I'm sure I can go back and ask them again, could get some help, or maybe we're going to need to replace them. But I give a chance for the project team member to adjust because sometimes it's a training issue, let's say. Maybe they're just not trained in how to do it. Uh,
Yeah.
And other times it is an attitude issue. So, as I was mentioning earlier about Kubler's change curve, and maybe this is something, again, for them, it's not the glamorous project that they wanted to work on. And maybe they are working on a glamorous project, but they're not putting in the time and effort into your project. Well, it could just be because of how much they're carrying in their load.
Yeah.
So it's before you pull the trigger and say this person's got to go. Before you do that, you have to do some good faith effort just to make sure as to why the problems are happening.
Yeah.
And then so that's a way to do that. Now, have I had to ask team members to find another place to be? I have. It's not nice. but I've done it with the support of their resource manager, who are in the process of trying to find me somebody else.
Yeah.
It's only happened one or two times in my entire time doing it. It's not fun. So
No,
to your
it's
point,
not.
right? So to your point, it's not easy, but that's what I would recommend is you try to get to the root of the problem. And what I found for the most part is people then go, "Oh, I didn't realize, oh, that's how that was going." Well, if you can help me with just talking, I need more time to work on this, and there's too many other projects on my plate. So again, you go back to you do to other project stakeholders and sponsors and the resource manager, and you try to balance a little better. Um, and so that also helps as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm sure you're basing that off of course, James, your experience. Because I was going to ask you if you could give one real world example where, so if you're able to talk about it, because I feel like just based on what you shared just now, I feel like that's probably coming from some, like you said, right? You've only had a couple of times where you had to have those very uncomfortable conversations. But
Mhm.
are you able to share maybe a real world example? And
I have a slightly different real world example. There was somebody uh, that was on one of my project teams,
mhm,
and very, very, very talented telecom guy, very talented. Loved working with him. Uh, was there anytime you needed him, morning, noon, and night.
yeah.
Um, but when I was asking him for status on some things, he kept telling me, I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't have it. And like week after week, I didn't get it. I didn't get it done. I didn't get it done. And finally I asked him, I go, what's going on?
Yeah.
You haven't moved on anything. What's going on? He says, well, here's the thing. Whenever I go over to the corporate floors, people pull me over to their desks and say, I'm having a problem with Microsoft Word, or I'm having a problem with email, or I'm having a problem connecting, or with this application. Can you take a look at it? And he would go through, and he's a good guy. He would try to help. Well, because he was a tech person, people just felt that he was part of the support organization for desktop and for uh, and systems and hardware and all this. So people just felt that he was part of that support. Well,
Yeah.
he was telecom, and he didn't have a lot of experience working uh, with PCs and printers and things like. He didn't have a lot of experience with that. So what's happening is he was burning up his entire day trying to help people because he was a nice guy,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So most people would go, okay, you know something, I've asked you 4 or 5 times why you're not getting anything done. So now you know something, I'm going to go to your boss and I'm going to get you written up or something like that. It was just asking what's going on. And
yeah,
once he told me that, I went, all right, this is what I want you to do. The next time somebody pulls you in, go, hey, go up to their desk and say, okay, do me a favor. Type in helpdesk at the companyname.com.
yeah,
Okay, they do that. Let's put what the problem is and hit send. And then you tell them this will get your questions answered faster than I can because this isn't in uh my wheelhouse. And so I'm not going to really be helping you. Well, he started doing that. And then he started knocking down all of the tasks and being that guy that I wanted on my team, right? Because I've
mm-hmm,
seen him do it. I've seen him pull rabbits out of the hat. Very, very talented guy. And I'd work with him again in a heartbeat. And that was, so I knew something wasn't right.
yeah,
But rather than going to his boss and going, hey, what's going on with this guy? Uh, we worked it out. So it's not quite the real world example you're looking for, but what I do is I try to look at things from the positive,
yeah,
and that I believe that people want to succeed. Sometimes though, they just don't have the support, or there's something that's missed, and then performance falls off.
yeah.
And so that I hope that kind of explains it just a little bit.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And right as you're talking, James, like I was thinking about examples where maybe I could have taken a different approach. So, like I've had situations where I have felt maybe a project team member wasn't were living up to their full potential or was missing some targets. And I've had one-on-one conversations with, let's say, let's call the individual Bob. I can't think of another name.
No.
So let's say Bob is the one I'm having trouble with, and I've had one-on-one conversations with Bob. But even after having a one-on-one conversation in which Bob said everything was fine, didn't really have a reason why he wasn't meeting his targets. Eventually, did have to have, right, those difficult conversations about, okay, well, Bob is unfortunately not living up to the expectations of the team, and it is now slowing everyone else down as well. And so I've had to have those difficult conversations. But all that to say, I love your example because I do think the first step should be to have a one-on-one conversation. Because, I've also had situations where people maybe aren't completing their tasks on time. And after a conversation, I've come to find out that they had something very tragic happen in their personal life. And that was the reason. So I really appreciate the fact that you do have those conversations before escalating, because I think sometimes people just need to be heard, and sometimes they may not be comfortable coming to you with what they're going through. So I think as a leader, it is important to ask those questions. So really great example. I really enjoyed that example, James. And so I have a follow-up question to that. So if there's one mindset shift that you really want leaders to walk away with, right, from this conversation, what would it be when it comes to trust, access, and moving forward?
Great question. I believe that we all have the ability to look at our team members and to look at folks in our personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what happens though is we don't want to give in. We don't want to admit, we don't want to. So, in the finance areas, right, we have this thing called sunk cost, right?
Yep.
Well, there are sunk costs sometimes in trying to maintain relationships to keep them, they're the relationships that you try and keep in the green box because they've been there for you before. But for some reason, they're not there now. They're not present. And so you can try to keep them in the box.
Yeah.
What happens is it takes away from the folks that um, are there for you and you're there for them. And and the thing is that the boxes are fluid.
Yeah.
Uh, Depending on where things just are and how people treat each other. So from a leader's point of view, um, it really, it's like, you know, you find out that a team member is a phenomenal artist and paints beautiful, beautiful pictures. So let me ask you then, is that person a project manager who's a really, really good artist? Or are they a really, really good project manager that enjoys art? You're not going to know until you put in the time and effort if you learn something about them and talk with them. And you may find that they are so passionate about painting that it's
Yeah.
relaxing to them, that it helps them deal with their day. Well, then what happens is as a leader, go, oh, wow, I don't know that I've spent that much time in my hobbies because I'm so busy, and
Yeah.
it's a Stephen Covey who talks about sharpening the saw. Is that Stephen Covey? I think the names slip me a little bit, but the whole idea of sharpening the saw, it's those kinds of things. What do we do to just offload some of the pressures of our day? And so from a leadership point of view, it's really focusing on what matters and and then looking at other things that contribute to project success, but really, really focusing on what's going on in the green box, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
as in leaders, by the way, our job as leaders is to help our our teams not only be able to perform at a world-class level, but for those team members to work their way into our green boxes. So as I was saying, with you, Parmjit, you're in a green box because I know you're going to come through time and
Yeah.
time again. There's no doubt about it. Uh, but before I knew you, first time I met you,
Yeah.
right? It's like, oh yeah, yeah, you're a nice person, and oh gee, former, past president. Yeah, okay, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
But when we started talking, it occurred to me that something. As an amazing project manager, and so that's how leaders can identify folks and to be able to bring them into that inner circle in terms of professional on a project basis.
Yeah.
And it's up to leadership to be able to spot that, to mentor it, and to nurture it.
Yeah, I love that sentiment. And also, thank you so much, James, for the compliment. Obviously, the feeling is very, very mutual.
Thank you.
And yeah, you're so welcome. And I love James, and I know we're getting towards the end of our time, but I love that you talked about, right? Actually, everything you just said, it talks to the human side of leadership, right? And it talks about how we can be not just better leaders, but how we can be better humans and how we show up for others. And I love the examples that you gave because that I feel that that encompasses that that part of leadership, right? The human side of
Yep.
leadership. And I love it,
Yeah.
nurturing the skills of our project team members. We have some folks on, so I'm working on a client project right now, and on the project team, we have our vendors, we have our immediate project team, etc. And throughout the project, every day I learn something new about either my project team or my vendor, and it's so much fun learning who they are outside of work and learning who what their passions are, who their family members are, how they like to engage. Like I love that because
Hmm.
it's just a reminder, right? At the end of the day, we're just humans.
Right.
And there are so many facets to who we are as beings.
Yeah. One of the things I guess I can share with you, going back to leadership, and I know we're coming up against our time here, but I have two sisters that
Hmm.
have served on nonprofit boards, uh, and very, very important boards for nonprofits that they were representing.
Hmm.
And I remember, I was reaching out to them and I said, I'm having a problem with board member XYZ. And what do I do? Right. I mean, they need, I just, they're not working out. And this is actually where one of the places that I actually learned about this leadership is my sister said, they're volunteers, James.
Yeah.
You can't fire them.
Yeah.
They're volunteers. You need to adjust your approach. And so having not spent a lot of time as president, and it wasn't a role that I felt that I ever would be in, but it turned out that way. So in speaking with this particular board member, it became apparent that they just didn't have time,
Yeah.
right? And this is an important thing in terms of our chapters. And I said, I understand that XYZ. I understand that. We're all busy. I get it. Would you be willing to allow us to put somebody else in your role so you can go deal with what's going on in your personal life, what's going on in professional life, and understand that there's always going to be a place for you here.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if you think you can spend a couple of hours a week or a couple of hours a month, we have some other areas where we could use your help. You're really good at what you do, but maybe there's not the time commitment now for that. And so that uh, also gives them, it gives them some reassurance that it's not really based on their performance. We understand that, again, based on how we worked with them before, something's up. And it's our job as leaders to be sensitive to that. And then, in terms of the volunteer world, is giving them the opportunity to make changes and know that it's okay. That it's okay that we've got that way they don't feel they're letting the chapter down.
Yeah.
Because as we're volunteers, we still have to do what makes the most sense for ourselves and our families, and that's so. Uh, and I think that's as you and I, having both been leaders of chapters, um, we've been both very, very fortunate to have some great boards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and And so there's a great board here in California Inland Empire, and we have an amazing president, Saul, who is definitely making a difference. He is very people oriented. He and the board really really likes working with him. And so as past president, my job is to just help wherever he's needing help, but also just when he has those questions about why is it like this? Well, this is the way it started, and this. Oh, okay. Well, can we change that? Yeah, just ask your board.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and but that's what I think leaders do. It's not so much about leaders lead, is leaders are there to help remove roadblocks. And in agile and in scrum, right? The third box is, what is it, what's getting in your way? Well, the
Yeah.
reason why you're telling them what's getting in the way is so that somebody can help get that problem out of their way. And that's
Mm-hmm.
leadership.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a Scrum Master also, and I love what Scrum Masters do. I love that they remove roadblocks and that they protect their team from
Yeah.
any outside interference. And so yeah, I love that. And so I do have a final question for you, James. And I
Actually,
ask this question. Yes,
let me ask you this before you give the final question. Let me just
sure.
give a couple of seconds because you're a Scrum Master,
Yeah.
and I'm a Scrum Master, well, CSMs. Uh, and but when you're in Scrum, you have 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you accomplish? What are you planning to accomplish? And what's getting in your way?
Yeah.
You have three questions. In that environment, I have no idea who you are. I mean, it's all, boom, 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 15-minute time boxed has to be this. Okay, well, that's great. But here's the thing. I came up with this thing called birthday cake in the Scrum.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a listing of everybody's birthday. And then okay, Parmjit, you're on our project team. Your birthday is on this date. It's your job to bring the cake. And we're going to take time out of the scrum. We're going to do that to have a piece of cake, right? And just celebrate that you've gone another trip around the sun. Well, then what happens is that it's not all about the project. It's also about people. And so now when it comes time for my birthday,
Yeah.
I got to buy a cake because I don't want to let Bridget down. She brought her own cake. And so you see how we all step up with each other with something as simple as a birthday cake. So
Yes.
yeah, birthday cake in the scrum. And you know something, anybody, you guys can use that. And I learned it from a very, very dear friend of mine who was in Wisconsin. And she taught that to me, and I still use it all these years later.
Well, please thank her for me also, because I think what a fantastic idea.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we have time for that one last question you had? I'll be
Yeah.
brief.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So again, I ask this question of every single guest that I have on my podcast. And so, James, I know you worked in entertainment, right? So obviously, I know you shared a little bit about that, but I want you to think back to young James, right? When you were a little boy. So, had you not gone on to work in entertainment, or maybe that's what you wanted to do as a child, or maybe had you not gone into work in project management in healthcare, which by the way, I did as well. What would little James have wanted to be? So when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That is a great question. And as I'm answering it, let me start with this. What is the role of a project manager? In my opinion, the biggest role of a project manager is to keep the sponsor and stakeholders who are not happy from or want information from going directly to the analysts or going directly to the technicians and things like that. And so it's my job as a PM to go, hey, hey, come on over here. Come on over here. Come talk to me. Come talk to me. Leave them alone. Come talk to me. Come talk to me. Right?
Yeah.
That's one of our jobs. When
Mm-hmm.
I was in third grade, we used to provide. I'm so glad you asked this question because it's all formulating again in my head. My family, we were in agriculture and, in cattle and horses and things like that up in the Antelope Valley. And we used to provide livestock to the local rodeos that were coming through.
Okay.
Okay. And so we had access VIP access, if you will, to the backside where the cowboys were, the cattle were, and all that. But there was this other thing. There was these other people there. And in third grade, this was awesome. Rodeo clowns.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh. They cussed. They, they spat tobacco. They, didn't bathe. They played with fireworks as part of the show. And I went, I want to do this, right?
Yeah.
Because here's the job. You have that one clown out in the middle of the arena. And when the cowboy gets bucked off of the bull, right? The clown goes, "Hey, bull, come on over here. Come take a, come on, leave him alone. Come on after here, right? See that, right?" And then jumps into a barrel. And then the bull is like going after the barrel, right?
Yeah.
And what I realized is all these years later, I've actually achieved my dream, right?
Uh-huh.
Because that's the role we play is to allow some breathing room for our teams.
Yeah.
And so and that's so when you ask me what was it James wanted, James had no idea in third grade that he wanted to or going to be a project manager. Uh, and one of the things I found in entertainment, which I really really enjoyed, I still enjoy doing it, but there was this natural progression because take theater for a moment here that you're still balancing the triangle,
Mm-hmm.
but in entertainment you can't slip your go live date because you've
No.
sold tickets for opening night,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still all three legs of the triangle. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was a very easy transition for me to get into project management.
Yeah.
So pretty much I'm doing what I realized that I wanted to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. I was speaking with someone. I was on a podcast recently by this great guy named Manny, and he asked me something. Well, we were talking about something similar about what I wanted to be when I was young, and I said I wanted to be a dancer or an actress, and I wanted to be on stage. Like that was
Mhm.
my goal. I wanted to be on stage. And I realized later on in life that so now I'm not just a project manager, but I'm a public speaker, right? I travel
Sure.
the world speaking. And I realized that even though I didn't get to be on a stage as an actress or as a Bollywood dancer necessarily, I still get to be on stage. I still get to perform just in a different way. And so I love that you shared that, and I love that you are still, in a sense, doing exactly what you wanted to do. And so you are
Sure do.
protecting your team. Yeah,
I
you're
appreciate
leading
that.
your team.
And I'll tell you this here is that one of your pictures that you have as far as from the services that you offer uh, is it's not only as far as consulting and project management that, but there's a picture of you where you are obviously on stage. You're holding a microphone, or you're on a
Yeah.
stool. So I don't know if if you're presenting or doing some stand up or something,
Oh, yeah, that was stand up.
right. So you see how that actually is still a part of you,
Yeah.
and those are the things that we, just having that balance, and going back to the moving forward with trust and access matrix,
Yeah.
ultimately at its core is about balance
Mm-hmm.
and boundaries and the importance of boundaries and setting boundaries, not to be harsh, not to be, but it's to respect the space for others and for them to respect your space as well. So but that's it. So of course, the next time you're doing stand up, let me know because it's I would love to see that. And so it's absolutely, it makes perfect sense that you wanted to do that. And of course, now that you were able to get up in front of people and speak, which by the way is a very very difficult thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah.
And there's studies on that people would rather do anything than get up in front of a group of people and present.
Yeah, I think it's the
So
number one fear, if I'm not mistaken, number one
yes, it
fear
is.
for people across the globe.
Yes, absolutely. So, but
Yeah.
you're good at it. I've had a chance to watch you and work with you a little bit. So it's very, very accomplished at that. And I got to tell you, I really want to wish you the best of luck in what it is you're doing. And you've helped so many people.
Oh, thank you,
And
James.
and you have this. Well, let me ask you this: how did you say, that third grade version of you?
Yeah.
And so you said, I wanted to dance, I wanted to act, I wanted to be in front of people. And in some way, you're doing that now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we do, when we can, we do migrate to what it is that I ultimately feel that we want to do. And if you stay positive about it, I think that makes a tremendous difference as well. Because a very dear friend of mine has told me many times that when you put out positive energy into the universe, it does come back to you, and that's true.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's
I agree.
definitely being positive, the power of positivity and the power of just who's in your life, that people you want in your inner circle. We'll go back to that here for a moment. Ideally, you want people in that inner circle whose eyes light up and they smile when you walk into a room.
Yeah.
And those are the people who cheer you on for your victories and for your successes and not tearing you down. And there's people in my inner circle that love that I'm experiencing the success that I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
So that's, again, tying it back to the matrix as far as how you know if people are in the right box.
Oh, for sure. And I
Mhm.
think you and I have talked about this as well. I mean, I have the same experience. I think on LinkedIn you can see which individuals are always cheering me on. And it's funny because it's almost always the same consistent individuals
Yeah.
who not only and they don't, it's not just performative, right? They don't just do it on LinkedIn. I mean, I will get text messages like I use Tanya as an example so
Mhm.
often, because she's one of my biggest cheerleaders and I hers. I mean, it's not just that she'll like my comments or my posts on LinkedIn. Tanya messages me all the time to see how I'm doing. And we always talk about, we need to catch up. And whenever she's in town or I'm in her neck of the woods, we always catch up. And it's because we genuinely care about how each other is doing and we genuinely care about each other's success. But if I wasn't watering that plant or that relationship and she wasn't watering this relationship, obviously, not to say I wouldn't care, but I probably wouldn't care as much. But it's because she shows so much care towards me that I naturally want to do the same for her. So,
It's about
yeah,
equity. It is
absolutely.
about equity. And by the way, when we're out of when that is out of sync or not weighed correctly, and there's not the sense of equity,
Yeah.
uh, that will also have its drawbacks in relationships.
Yeah.
And and so, but in the case of you and Tanya's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
And so I'm very, very, very lucky to get a chance to know her and to call her a friend. Uh, but there is that, what you're talking about is that, again, that trust and that access
Hmm.
and knowing that you're going to be there for each other.
Exactly.
And so it's absolutely spot on. And I really, really have enjoyed this. I do know we're coming up at the end of time. We may have actually gone over a little bit,
Yeah, just a
but
bit.
I can't tell you though how much I've enjoyed this. And I just want to thank you so very much for asking me to be on the podcast here, Your Life Projectized, but also um, that you believed in what it is that I was sharing, and that you reached out to me and said, "Would you be a guest?" And
Yeah.
what I was doing was striking a chord for you, and
Yeah.
that's what I try to do. And you'll hear me on my videos going, "If what I said today strikes a chord, please, comment down below and share this with someone who just might need a little bit of, positivity."
Absolutely.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, and then I wrap it up with, until we see each other again, thanks so much
Yeah.
for watching and have a major league day.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Well, no, James, no, thank you so much. And absolutely it resonated with me. It has been my honor to have you on as a guest. I'm so glad that I reached out to you. And yeah, I cannot wait for this episode to air. So this episode will air on the first of next month, or actually, yeah, it's coming up actually, isn't it? I think the first is on Friday. But yeah, this
Mhm.
episode will air on the first. And again, thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, for your insights, and just for being an incredible human.
Thank you so much, Parmjit. And I really enjoyed it, and right back at you. Absolutely incredible experience. And thank you so much for this. And I am looking forward to seeing more successes for you, and continued happiness. And again, anything I can do, to share or, help or something like that, you certainly know where to find me. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. All right. I enjoyed it
Okay.
very much.
All right.
All right.
Me as well. Thank
All
you.
right. Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.